Most entrepreneurs don't own a business. They own a job, a very demanding one that they can never leave. They started out wanting freedom. And somewhere along the way, they built a company where they can't run for a single day without them. They're the bottleneck. They're the decision maker. They're the one who can never truly unplug. They don't have freedom. That's a cage that they built themselves. Now, my guest today scaled a company to 8 figures and hundreds of clients, and he did it by building something most founders don't do. Systems that let the business run without him. Now, David Salerno is a serial entrepreneur and author who over more than 20 years founded and scaled Solpak Packaging Solutions to 8 figures and more. Now, he has over 530 clients across Canada. He's also the vice chairperson of Montreal Economic Institute. He's known for building systems, the kind that let a business grow and run without the founder trapped in the center of it. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for having me. A pleasure.
You're very welcome. This is a very exciting topic. I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs get themselves into, and they don't know how to actually become, and actually achieve that freedom that you were talking about. Now, David, most people start a business dreaming of freedom, and they end up with the opposite. Why does that happen? Why do so many entrepreneurs end up trapped by their very business that they were supposed to set them free with?
It's a great question. I can say today that when there is lack of clarity in what the entrepreneur, the founder, the business owner has to do, this is when we end up hustling and working harder, because clarity will reduce effort more than motivation will ever do. So it's really a matter of having clarity in where to put our energy, our focus. Absolutely.
Now, when did you realize that building a business and building your freedom are two completely different things?
That's a great question. So I think first I came from the telecom world. I joined the packaging. I had this great opportunity, it was a great product line. And I think at first I just was, it's me, whatever I'm selling, and get it going. And eventually, as you start hiring, it felt like the hustle became work, which is fine. You're growing, which is great, but more growth brought more headaches, problems, stress. And then I realized I was getting a business that in the face of it, it was amazing. It's successful, it's growing, but it was like more stress than ever, and not much more in terms of pay, let's say, than when I was in the corporate world. So that's when I realized, okay, like this business is great, but this is not what I signed up for. And that's when I realized I needed to figure out a way to not have a business that depends on me to be successful.
Right. Now let's define it, because I think people throw the word freedom around without even knowing what it looks like. What does the business freedom actually mean to you?
It's a great question. And I get a lot of, we actually debate with entrepreneurs and whatnot. I have a buddy of mine who was like, David, I was writing the book Built for Freedom, and I was in the process of, and he's like, David, I didn't start a business not to work. Like, I like what you built with your business. I just don't understand the concept. So it's definitely somewhat mysterious. To me, business freedom is really the ability to build a business where you're not at the center of a hub where everything goes through you. And it's really a matter of you being able to choose how you show up in the business or outside of the business. It's not having margaritas by the pool, although that could be one way of living your business freedom. I'm super busy, and I consider living business freedom for the last probably 10 years, I'd say. It's really a matter of what you feel is what you will be enjoying, will be beneficial for your business, family, community, once you've set up what you need to set up in the business. Yeah, I think you hit it on all of them. In my case, it was never about the money. I wasn't, of course, I wanted a nice lifestyle, but it was really being able to decide what I would be doing each and every day. The first time I kind of tested freedom as an entrepreneur is when I decided, okay, that's it. I used to love going to the movie theater by myself. That was my thing. And I hadn't done that in a couple of years. And I'm like, that's it. I'm going this afternoon to the movie theater. So for me, it was time and deciding where I put it. Money's nice. You realize that if you do it right, money will follow anyways.
Right. Now, how do you know when you actually achieved it versus when you just are telling yourself that you have it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'd say when I left for a few weeks, I was in the process of writing the book. And then I came back and first of all, things were the same or better. And the team was super happy to kind of report back on what happened and how things happened. And the vision was carrying in your absence. And I thought that was just amazing. I knew I was there when that happened.
I love that. Now, you built a company to 8 figures and hundreds of clients, and you're known for building systems. Now, this is part, the part that I really want you to unpack. Like, what
Mm.
does it actually mean to actually build systems and run without you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the first part, once you've figured out the growth of your business and having significant sales, because if that hasn't happened, forget about systems. It's really figure out what your message is, your offer, your promise to your clients. But that when that is figured, there's really three elements you want to cover. The first one is you gotta be clear on what I call sandboxes, who does what in the business, and you basically map it out so that you're basically the director, the orchestra director, right? You're not playing any of the instruments. Your job is just to make sure everybody's aligned. And quite frankly, you're more doing movements than anything. With all due respect to directors, they're amazing, and I've known nothing of that type of career. But that being said, you have to see yourself as mapping it. The second part is you got to hire the right people. And it's easier said than done. And it takes time. Like at Solpak, it took some time to really figure out what type of people we need here. And then naturally some people would leave because it wasn't their place. So the second part was figure out your people. And then the last part is really having the right numbers so that you are monitoring and following on all of this that you've set up with the team and making sure that even when you're away, you could look at your numbers. And I'm not talking sales only. There's all kinds of numbers, the happiness of your people and whatnot, and that you're reassured that your freedom that you've acquired, whichever way you're living it, is sustainable in the business. So really three things: your systems with sandboxes and processes, your people, and then having the right numbers to make sure that everything is working fine. Like a car, basically, like a dashboard on a car.
Right. Now, for the overwhelmed business owner who feels like everything depends on them, like where do you even start?
You start like this. Now, for the audience who can't see the video, I'm putting my hands, like my head between my hands, and I look like my head's gonna explode. So you start there. That's when you hit rock bottom, maybe, and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to get through this day with everything I have to do. How am I gonna get to freedom? So I think it's the realization. The first step is, okay, something's got to give, something's got to change. That I would say is the first step, the trigger. But really after is really to figure out which of the three challenges, I see it in three main challenges. That's how I was able to get out of it when I was exactly that image of your head between your hands, is the idea that either you have a growing problem, you don't have enough sales to fund what's happening, your salary, your people, equipment, whatever you need. So you don't have enough growth, or it's not sustainable. The way you're set up is not sustainable, which is usually where most entrepreneurs are stuck. And then after, the next challenge is being of service. So you might be perfect sales, you're kind of set up, but you have complaints clients, or your people are not happy. So that's like kind of the third challenge. How are you serving your people, your own people in your business, but also your clients, your community? So you usually start with that. Do I have a growth problem? Do I have a sustainability problem? Meaning I have good sales, but I'm going crazy, or am I having a service problem where I haven't figured out how to keep my people happy and my clients happy? So start with that. Just those three elements. Which one is it? Choose that and then dive in.
I love that. That's a great answer. Now, what's the first thing that they should systemize?
So the anecdote is the first thing I systemized at Solpak is we would acquire new clients and we'd make all kinds of mistakes. Everybody was working hard, and I realized every time we have a new client, there's a lot of steps because we have an equipment to place to train the client, specific elements that we need to combine in the solution, and we'd mess it up, even like the invoicing. So in our case, because we were in growth stage, it was onboarding clients. We had basically sat down for 2 afternoons, the whole team. That was 4 people back then, 18 years ago maybe. And we basically mapped out every single step of how do we onboard the client so that by the end of the day, they're super happy, they're set up, and there's no errors to fix, no technical issues and whatnot. So in our case, it was that. So to answer your question, Stacy, I'd say, what is your biggest frustration as a founder or business owner? And look at that. It's probably what needs to be systematized first, so that you first cut down on your frustration and you have a clear view on what you need to do next. And also, probably your team is not happy as well, because if you're frustrated, somebody else in the business is. So I would say identify your largest frustration, your biggest frustration, and systematize that first.
I love that answer. Now, if you feel like your business would fall apart without you, this step is part what you exactly need. And I'm talking to the audience. So stay with us because you're going to really like what you hear. Now, follow the Advisor Business Podcast right now. Every week, we bring you the people who show you how to build a business and a life that actually works. Now, for a lot of the founders, they are the bottleneck, and, letting go is like terrifying for them. Why is it so hard for entrepreneurs to let go and stop doing everything themselves?
That's a great question. We could talk about tactics and step 1, 2, 3. At the end of the day is you have to be able to trust that your team and your systems will carry the ball for you, and they will make mistakes, and it's okay. And sometimes there'll be bigger mistakes, and that's okay too, but trust your people and your systems and build from there. I think that's the biggest unsaid thing is we founders often founded our company because we wanted to do it our way. We were smart, we work hard, and then we come to a point where we're the bottleneck because we're not trusting we can pass the ball, and that's the biggest step to take.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think a lot of people are afraid to let go and give the ball to somebody else. They are terrified that they're not going to be able to do a good job like they do in their head. Nobody could do it better than them. Nobody knows their business better than them. Nobody knows their clients better than them. And letting go is horrifying for them.
Yeah, and it's not totally untrue to some extent, because the classic saying that you're the best salesperson in your business, of course, it's your baby. You're passionate about it. You're probably an expert in whatever you're providing as a service or a product. So it's not untrue that we have some of those traits. But if your vision is to build a business, then you have to question yourself, do I truly want to build a business that will deliver on my vision without me being at the center of it? And you know what? I've mentored entrepreneurs that at the end of the day, they realize, you know what? I don't want to grow the business that much more than what it is. I just want to lower the pressure, lower the efforts, and that's okay too. So just have clarity on what you really want to do with your business, where you want to bring it. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to trust your people and your systems.
Yes, 100%. Now, how did you learn how to step back and trust the systems and the people? And what did that unlock for you and your business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I constantly was reading books. I was a big book reader, so read books on different methods, different ways of running. Sometimes it was about marketing systems. Some books I'd recommend, like E-Myth. I think it's Michael Gerber, the author, written in the 80s, I think. Great book, helped me. Built to Sell is another one. I was like, begin with the end of mind. I'd sometimes dabble into the more Eastern philosophies. And the idea of beginning with the end in mind is basically saying, it's kind of saying you have the vision. How do I get there? And then you realize, where are the gaps? So I think that was a big one for me. So then I'd figure out each step of the way, where do I look for the information that will help me get there or overcome that new struggle that I figured out along the way.
I love that. Now, you've built a real financial success, but I have a feeling that you say that the freedom of time matters even more. Why is your time, the real wealth more than the money?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think about that one. Great question, Stacey. So I was since I was a child, I wanted to be in business. My father had started businesses. A good Sicilian always wants to start a business somehow, right?
Yeah.
And so that was going to be my future. And then I fell in the corporate world. I learned a lot, and I'm happy I went through that phase, but definitely did not want to have my time imposed on by others. So I think that was the onset, and then starts the business to realize I can make good money and better money, but I felt like it was worse than in the corporate world. At least in the corporate world, they give you 4 weeks of vacation or 2 weeks, whatever that means, and then they kick you out. Like, go take your vacation. At least in Canada, sometimes it's different in America.
Right.
But in business, there's no vacation. When I would be asked, when are you on vacation? My friends would say, when are you on vacation, David? And I'd be like, well, I'm always on vacation, but I'm never on vacation really, because it's all in the head, right? So I
Yeah.
think to answer your question, time to me was the ultimate expression of freedom is I choose where I am and what I do in that very moment. And that's worth more than money to me.
Right. I love that. Now, what does your business freedom let you do with your life that grinding entrepreneurs never get to experience?
I mean, the obvious first answer was a family. My kids are 17 and 18 now, but I remember maybe 13 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive them to school. So I couldn't control how my day would end, but I knew when my day started. So I was able to design me driving the kids to school. It took me basically an hour back and forth. And I would drive them and we spent quality time together. I was able to make them discover music of all kinds, including my era. Although they weren't fans, it doesn't matter. It's okay. We tried. But that being said, that was the first expression of time and with my wife and being home early, and she'd call me at 4. She needed me, no problem. That type of business freedom was amazing because I didn't have to ask anybody permission, right? Once I gave myself permission, then I had it. So family, definitely the first. Then I've always wanted to write. Since I was a teenager, I was writing, not books, but stories and whatnot. And then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm going on a trip. I take the train across the east side of the continent just to write a chapter. I take a flight to Europe because I wanted to write. So that was my second way of expressing. And that's how I came with the Sherpa method and the whole book that I wrote is through these times. So that was another way of expressing my time. Now it's doing what I'm doing now with you. I mean, I just love it, having these conversations. And if it can help somebody, it's amazing. Mentoring is also another way where I spend my time, and I should have more hobbies. That's all I know. But maybe these are my hobbies at the end of the day.
And what does the cost of never building it, of staying trapped in your own company?
Yeah. I strongly believe that starting or running your own business is the ultimate expression of your potential liberation. I'm going to call it like this. Your ability to become a better version of you. Being in business, I think, is the best way to live that. So if you do not achieve freedom, first of all, you probably are not that pleasant with your team because you're always there, always on their case, and you haven't allowed them to fully live in their sandbox. And and then you haven't let them live their full expression of who they can be as a team member. You haven't allowed yourself to grow out of it. So I think it's a lot of wasted human potential at the end of the day. And not to mention ailments and disease and all the things that can happen when you have too much stress in your body.
Right. For the entrepreneur, the business owner listening, who's overwhelmed and trapped in the day to day, what are the first steps towards building real freedom?
Sure. Observe what you do in your day and take the time to step away from the business. Go to a coffee shop, close your door, and just take a piece of paper. Nowadays, maybe I'll be just on the computer and just list everything that you find frustrating with the business. And don't censor yourself. Don't justify, just list it. You might end up, in my case, it was 3 pages, literally full. The second part is list what is your vision? What is the ultimate begin with the end of mind? And list all the things that you would want the business to be like, and just don't censor yourself. Write it down, and list basically the things that gotta stop in the business. So you do these 3 things, and then from that point on, you're gonna have already more clarity and realize, okay, what of all of this matters to me the most today? And then work on that. So in my case, like I said, it was onboarding clients. I was constantly running after clients and whatnot. And I basically said, okay, guys, we're just going to sit down and work that process. And then it's either train somebody to do it for you or do a process with your team, but really start with the biggest frustration.
I love that. And what makes the mindset shift? Do you need to make, any changes, or any tactics that you use that will actually work?
Yeah, I think it was more than a tactic in a sense where it was an exercise I'd done. And I know Tony Robbins does the same exercise because I saw that at one of his events once. But it's the idea of, it's like the rocking chair on the porch exercise where you're like 95 years old and you look back at your life. But if you look back at your business life, what is it that you want to remember having done in that business? And that wakes you up solid, because if you look at what you've just been stressing about all day, and then you think of you at 95, you're like, okay, I really got to change things. So I think that mindset shift comes
Yeah.
with that type of exercise, looking back. Definitely the way. And then after, it's tactics, they come easy. They're everywhere, right?
I love that. Now, you've built the business and the freedom that most entrepreneurs only dream about. So, what do you most want every business owner listening to understand about freedom, about time, about building something that serves your life instead of consuming it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I truly believe the first step is to have clarity. I've mentioned it earlier. You have to be clear on what you want and how you want to get there. So clarity is first. The second part then is to focus. It's easy to get distracted. So close the door, go somewhere else. If you realize you have to work on a specific process, close the door, go somewhere else and do it. So focus. And that's how you're going to get to freedom. And it's going to be bits of freedom initially. It's not going to go an overnight aha moment. It's practice, like when you do yoga or meditation. But be clear. Okay,
Yeah,
what is it that I need to do? Okay, let me focus on that, just that, ignore the rest, and then slowly you'll get to have more and more freedom.
I love that. I love that. Now, you've written an amazing book. Can you tell us about your book?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for the compliment. So the book is called Built for Freedom. So it's discovered the 9-step method to become an entrepreneur built for freedom. And the idea is to have a framework to ask, basically, I talked about 3 challenges, but 27 questions. It may sound like a lot, but you don't need to go through all of them. But 27 questions about your business that technically, if you say like on 10, how much am I scoring on that question? If you
Yeah,
score a 9 or a 10, you're good. But if you score a 3 or you feel, oh, that one, I didn't even know I had to worry about this, it helps you
yeah.
focus exactly on what you need to work on. So that's basically the premise of the book, is to take you out of the business as the central hub.
I love that. Now, for the listener out there, from our conversation that we had today, what are some of the things that you want people to remember from this conversation?
Yeah. The first thing that I haven't talked earlier about is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are built for freedom out there. And sometimes they're at 3, 4 businesses at the same time. So if you're in your own business thinking it's impossible, I don't know how I'm going to get there, it's not a you problem. It's just a mindset shift to have, and then having a framework or a way of organizing your business so that you can free from it. But it's out there. And there are businesses that are 100 years old. They're still out there, but it started with one founder. He or she figured out something. Just, you can do the same. So believe that it's possible, I think, is the first step. And the second one is, you got to reserve time for yourself to think about your business. So, get out of your business, look at your
Yeah,
business as your product. You're not only delivering a service, but you're also building a business, which is also a product you're building. So take a step back and then just away at it. It's going to work.
I love that. I love that. And also, where can people find your book?
Yes. So the book, they can start with davidsalerno.com, my website. So it's davidsalerno.com. And then on there, I offer the free first free chapter. So people can have a taste for the book. And if they like it, they can just order it there as well. That would be the best. And I hang out on LinkedIn. So I'm also reachable on LinkedIn if people would just want to chat on there.
I love it. And for the listeners out there, it turns out that the goal was never just to build a bigger business. It was to build a freer life, one where your business works for you, not the other way around. And David showed us today that the real business freedom is possible only if you build on purpose. And I just want to thank you so much, David, for being here, because honestly, I don't think there's a lot of people out there that are entrepreneurs that believe that they could actually have that freedom. There are people out there who actually succeed and they do it and they delegate and they have successful business. But then you have people out there who struggle and they just don't know how to step away and they don't know how to have that successful business without them being in the forefront. And they get burned out. And like you said before our conversation, sometimes we have flaws and we bring it into the business and we don't even realize it. And everyone, if this hit home, share it with the entrepreneur who's trapped in their own business and needs to hear that there is another way. So I really thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom. And I think you're an amazing individual. And I hope you'll be back soon.
Well, thank you, Stacey, for having me. Thank you for the kind words, and wishing you great success and more freedom to all of your audience.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you.